The new monster manual is almost here, and they've started to preview some of the new creatures, and one of them I'm particularly excited about, and I'm going to show you how to weave it into any adventure. So before we get into the new monster, let me quickly remind you of an old monster, the Revenant. The Revenant is an intelligent undead with a single purpose: to get revenge on something that wronged it in its former life. As an undead, it doesn't need to breathe, it doesn't need to eat, it doesn't need to sleep. It's determined to hunt down the thing and get its revenge. And even if you destroy its undead body, this vengeful spirit will find another one because it's just too angry to die. Now imagine this undead spirit continues to fail at its task, jumping from body to body, time and again trying to get its revenge, only to have its plans fail. But then it realizes that it could inhabit something other than a humanoid body. It could inhabit anything. Enter the Haunting Revenant, where this spirit has inhabited a location, like a house, a haunted house, like so many classic horror films. The Haunting, The Shining, The Changeling, The Orphanage, The Others, and a whole bunch of other really good films that don't start with the word the. Now let's take a look at the new monster's stat block. Like its predecessor, it has the ability to revive itself even after it dies. Presumably, it could re-inhabit the same location or inhabit a new location. Either way, that location has resistance to magic by creating a haunted zone. So any creature that casts a spell inside the Revenant space must make a Constitution saving throw, or that spell fails and is wasted. Now this creature also has an object slam ability, and I love the fact that this is so generically named, because you can flavor it however you want. You could describe it like a stereotypical poltergeist, just flinging objects around the room and hitting the player characters with furniture, utensils, doors, whatever you can think of to fling at them. Or you could even flavor this as strange hallucinations or bizarre body transformations, like when Ash had to fight himself in Evil Dead. And this stat block does such a good job of capturing the haunted house feel. It also has the invitation ability. And this ability allows the creature to draw a player character in and trap it within a haunted space. This invitation ability reminds me of the movie Poltergeist, and how the evil spirit kept drawing Carol Ann to the television and eventually trapped her within the house itself. And do you remember the haunting of Hill House? And how each family member was continually drawn to a particular room, and how the father was never able to open that red door? I don't want to explain further because I don't want to spoil that fantastic TV show. But if you haven't seen The Haunting of Hill House, go watch it now. Well, finish my video first, then go watch Haunting of Hill House.
Now, as always, you can help out the channel by hitting the like and subscribe button and clicking the notification bell to make sure that you get to see all my latest videos.
Now let's use this new monster in an adventure. And I say you can put this in any adventure because we're playing the long game here. We're going to introduce one scene every level and build up to this encounter with the Haunting Revenant. So at first level, we introduce the characters to a gnome mage. You can do this however you want, but I would set them up to owe the characters a favor. So after a night of drinking at the tavern, they stumble out into the alleyway and they see this gnome staggering, badly wounded. Something has happened and he's in desperate need of some magical healing. So after the players heal him, he gives them a generous amount of gold and introduces himself as Benedict Spellbane, and now he owes them a favor. Now, the players don't need to know this, but you do. Here's the backstory of Benedict Spellbane. He was once an adventurer and a member of a guild, and one of his closest friends was Kyrix, the Tiefling Paladin. The two of them adventured together, and at one point, Benedict traded Kyrix's life for a powerful spellbook. And that's how he became such a powerful and wealthy mage. Now, Kyrix is the one who becomes our Revenant, and he is out to get revenge on Benedict Spellbane. So that's the only story you really need to move this plot forward and weave it into your adventure. Now, the next chapter of the story we're going to put into whatever dungeon you're running when the characters are level 2. And it doesn't matter what dungeon you're using, all you need to do is add a specter, an animated sword, and a suit of animated armor. And of course, the specter is Kyrix, a vengeful spirit that's confused and lost because he was betrayed by his closest friend. The specter haunts and annoys the player characters, essentially just disrupts whatever they're trying to accomplish in this dungeon because he's trying to regain his senses and his memory. And as the players move throughout the dungeon, they also encounter his sword and his armor, which are animated because they are filled with confusing memories and a ton of rage. Now, Kyrix just needs to figure out what's going on, so uniting the Spectre with his sword and his armor puts his mind back together and helps him remember what happened and then focuses him on his revenge against Benedict. Now, he doesn't tell the players this. The players can be rewarded for helping Kyrix when he gives them his silver sword and his suit of plate mail. At this point, the players don't need to know that reuniting Kyrix with his memories and his lost emotions will now turn him into that Revenant. All they know is they helped out this spirit and they got a cool reward, the sword and the armor. And these don't have to be difficult encounters. You can use Kyrix purely as roleplay as he harasses the players until they help him. And the animated sword and the animated armor could be combat encounters if you chose to, or it could be a fun skill challenge as they try to grapple or trick these items into following them. Now, when the players are 3rd level, you want to bring back Benedict Spellbane. And you can do that however you want. He can be a quest giver, he can have a source of information, he can help them make a magic item that they need. But the most important thing you want to do is show off Benedict's cool mansion. Benedict has a mansion on an island in the middle of a lake. The whole purpose of this scene is to show off the mansion and the island because that becomes important later. Then, when the players are 4th level, introduce some sort of undead creature. So this could be a combat encounter, a roleplay encounter, a skill challenge, however you want to introduce this creature, and you can use the original Revenant stat block to represent this form of Kyrix. The most important part of this encounter is that the players discover this corpse is animated by the spirit of Kyrix, and that this is not his original body. That's why Kyrix is a tiefling, and this body is not. So they figure out that this spirit is the spirit of the tiefling from back at level 2. That this spirit is persisting and it's moving from body to body. So what I would do here is have Kyrix, our tiefling revenant, looking for some sort of magic item or spell-like ability in order to get past the magical wards that Benedict Spellbane is using to protect his mansion. And all of this sets us up for our big final encounter that I would introduce around level 6 or 7. And that's where the players return to Benedict's mansion and discover that Kyrix is now a haunting revenant, this large spirit that can inhabit an entire location. And we're going to invert the trope. So instead of doing a typical haunted house, we're going to do a haunted island where Benedict Spellbane is now trapped inside the house and can't get out of his house because the island around the building is haunted by this revenant spirit, or former paladin Kyrix. So the island itself is haunted, and Benedict Spellbane is trapped in his house because anytime he comes out, the island attacks him. So remember the object slam attack from the stat block. So we can flavor that in all the different ways that the island can attack. So we can have a large brazier filled with burning coals attack the player characters and just change the object slam attack damage to fire damage. We can also have the topiaries in the mansion's garden attack the players and do slashing or piercing damage. You can get as creative as you want with this object slam attack and change the damage type depending on what part of the island is attacking the players. And this sets up a scenario that we've been building up to for multiple levels. So the players get to decide who the real villain is. Do they fight Kyrix, the vengeful spirit haunting the island? Or do they go inside the house and defeat Benedict Spellbane, subdue him, and bring him out of the house to Kyrix so Kyrix gets his revenge? Or maybe they arrest Benedict Spellbane and turn him over to the authorities for Kyrix's murder, and that justice satisfies Kyrix's revenge without anybody getting killed. So you see there's a lot of options here on how the players could satisfy Kyrix's vengeance and allow his spirit to pass on to the afterlife. Now remember, the Haunting Revenant stat block has this Haunting Zone ability that can disrupt spells. So if a player fails their Constitution check and wastes their spell, I would give them some sort of information about this situation. So whenever they lose a spell slot to this Haunted Zone ability, I would tell them that they receive some sort of arcane awareness about this island being haunted. Go ahead and give them that information. Or if they've already figured that part out, give them some other memory of Kyrix and their experiences they've had with Kyrix prior to this point. So this will help them figure out the relationship between Kyrix and Benedict and help them make their decision as to who the real villain is. That way, on a turn where they've spent their spell slot, they've still received some sort of information about the situation that can inform their decision. I always hate it as a player when my turn feels wasted. So this is a way to compensate for that. And lastly, this stat block has the invitation ability, and I already gave some examples of how that could be used earlier in this video. But since we're flipping the script and making the Haunting Revenant the island and not the house, you could have all sorts of creative ways that the players get sucked into this invitation. They could be pulled underground. They could be drawn into a wooded area and lost in the dark forest. They could be pulled into the lake and disappear under the murky depths. Now, once again, so a player's turn doesn't feel wasted, if they're ever trapped by this invitation ability, use their turn to give them a scene about Kyrix and Benedict to help them figure out the plot that Benedict killed Kyrix in exchange for access to this evil spell book, and that'll help them make informed decisions in this encounter as to who they're going to treat as the real villain and whose side they're going to take in this altercation. So there you have it. That's how I would use this cool new monster stat block, the Haunting Revenant. I really hope you enjoyed this. Let me know if you plan to use this for an adventure. Also, let me know how you would use a Haunting Revenant and what kind of cool ideas does this new monster stir up in your brain. I'm Brad Wolf, and thanks again for watching The Dire Den. I'll see you next time.